Grief counseling. Grief counseling is a deeply personal and often complex journey that requires a sensitive, individualized approach to help those who are grieving navigate the profound emotional, psychological, and sometimes physical reactions to loss. It is more than simply helping someone move on or get over it. Rather, it is about guiding individuals through their unique grieving process, helping them understand and express their emotions, and eventually find a way to live with their loss in a healthy and meaningful way. Grief itself is a universal experience, but it manifests differently for each person. The experience of grief can be influenced by numerous factors, including the nature of the loss, the individual's personality, cultural and religious beliefs, and the support systems available. Loss can take many forms: death of a loved one, divorce, loss of a job, or even the loss of a long-held dream or identity. Each of these losses can trigger grief, and each requires a different approach in counseling. In grief counseling, the counselor's role is multifaceted. At its core, grief counseling is about providing a safe space for the bereaved to explore their feelings, thoughts, and memories associated with the loss. This involves active listening, empathy, and the ability to be present with someone in their pain without trying to fix it or rush them through their grief. The counselor must create an environment where the grieving person feels heard, validated, and understood, which is essential for healing. One of the first tasks in grief counseling is to help the individual acknowledge and accept the reality of the loss. This can be particularly challenging when the loss is sudden or traumatic. Denial is a common initial response to loss, and it can serve as a temporary defense mechanism to protect the individual from the overwhelming pain of their grief. The counselor helps the grieving person gently confront this reality, allowing them to begin the process of mourning. Mourning is the outward expression of grief, and it is through mourning that individuals start to heal. Mourning can take many forms: crying, talking about the deceased, participating in rituals or memorials, or even expressing emotions through art or writing. Grief counseling often involves encouraging and supporting these expressions of mourning, helping individuals find their own way of honoring their loss and moving through their grief. Another important aspect of grief counseling is helping individuals understand that grief is not a linear process. Many people expect that they will move through the stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance in a sequential manner. However, grief is often more cyclical or wave-like, with emotions coming and going unpredictably. A person may feel they are moving forward, only to be suddenly overwhelmed by sadness or anger. Grief counseling helps individuals understand and accept this process, reducing feelings of frustration or guilt when they experience setbacks in their grief journey. Grief can also bring up a wide range of emotions, including anger, guilt, fear, and sadness. These emotions can be intense and sometimes contradictory, which can be confusing and overwhelming for the grieving person. For example, a person may feel anger at the deceased for leaving them, guilt for things left unsaid or undone, or fear about the future without their loved one. The grief counselor helps the individual explore these emotions, providing a space to express and work through them without judgment. In some cases, grief can become complicated or prolonged, leading to what is known as complicated grief. This occurs when the normal grieving process is derailed, and the person becomes stuck in their grief, unable to move forward. Complicated grief can manifest as intense longing for the deceased, an inability to accept the loss, or persistent feelings of emptiness and despair. Grief counseling is essential in these cases, as it provides the support and tools needed to help the individual process their grief and begin to heal. Cultural and religious beliefs also play a significant role in how individuals experience and express grief. Different cultures have different mourning practices, and these can greatly influence the grieving process. For example, some cultures emphasize communal mourning and elaborate rituals, while others may focus on private reflection and restraint. Grief counselors must be sensitive to these cultural differences and be willing to incorporate the individual's beliefs and practices into the counseling process. This might involve supporting the person in participating in cultural or religious rituals, or simply being aware of how their beliefs might shape their grieving experience. Another critical aspect of grief counseling is helping individuals find meaning in their loss. This does not mean minimizing the loss or suggesting that everything happens for a reason, but rather helping the person find a way to integrate the loss into their life in a way that allows them to move forward. This might involve exploring how the loss has changed them, what they have learned from the experience, or how they can honor the memory of their loved one in their daily life. Finding meaning can be a powerful way to heal and can help the grieving person feel a sense of purpose and direction as they move forward. Grief counseling also involves helping individuals rebuild their lives after a loss. This can be particularly challenging when the loss involves the death of a spouse, child, or close family member, as these losses often require the individual to completely redefine their identity and life purpose. The counselor helps the person explore their new reality, identify their needs and goals, and develop a plan for moving forward. This might involve finding new hobbies or interests, building new relationships, or simply finding new ways to experience joy and fulfillment. It is also important to recognize that grief counseling is not just for individuals who have experienced a loss. It can also be beneficial for those who are anticipating a loss, such as in cases of terminal illness. Anticipatory grief is the grief that occurs before the actual loss, and it can be just as intense and complex as the grief that follows the loss. Grief counseling can help individuals navigate this difficult time, providing support as they prepare for the impending loss and begin to process their emotions. In addition to individual counseling, group therapy can be an effective form of grief counseling. Group therapy provides a space for individuals to connect with others who are experiencing similar losses, offering mutual support and understanding. This can be particularly valuable for individuals who feel isolated in their grief or who struggle to find support from their usual social networks. Group therapy can also provide a sense of community and belonging, which can be a powerful antidote to the loneliness that often accompanies grief. Children and adolescents also experience grief, and their needs in grief counseling can be different from those of adults. Children may not have the language or cognitive ability to express their grief in the same way as adults, and they may express their grief through behavior rather than words. Grief counseling for children often involves play therapy or art therapy, which allows them to express their feelings in a way that feels safe and natural. It is also important for grief counselors to provide support and guidance to parents or caregivers, helping them understand and respond to their child's grief. Adolescents, on the other hand, may struggle with the intense emotions of grief, combined with the normal challenges of adolescence. They may feel anger, confusion, or a sense of isolation, and they may struggle to talk about their grief with peers or adults. Grief counseling for adolescents often involves helping them find healthy ways to express and manage their emotions, as well as providing a space where they can talk about their loss without fear of being judged or misunderstood. Grief counseling is not just about helping individuals cope with their loss in the short term, it is also about helping them build resilience and find a way to live with their loss over the long term. This involves helping individuals develop coping strategies, build a support network, and find ways to experience joy and fulfillment again. It also involves helping individuals recognize that grief may never fully go away, but that it can become a part of their life in a way that is manageable and meaningful. In some cases, grief counseling may also involve working with individuals who are struggling with other mental health issues, such as depression or anxiety, which can be exacerbated by grief. Grief can trigger or intensify these conditions, and it is important for grief counselors to be able to recognize the signs of these issues and provide appropriate support. This might involve working with the individual to develop strategies for managing their symptoms, or referring them to a mental health professional for additional support. Finally, grief counseling is also about self-care for the counselor. Working with individuals who are grieving can be emotionally challenging, and it is important for grief counselors to take care of their own emotional and mental health. This might involve seeking supervision or peer support, engaging in regular self-reflection, and practicing self-care strategies to prevent burnout. In conclusion, grief counseling is a vital and compassionate service that helps individuals navigate the complex and often painful process of grieving. It involves providing support, understanding, and guidance as individuals work through their grief, helping them find a way to live with their loss in a healthy and meaningful way. Whether the loss is recent or long ago, whether the grief is straightforward or complicated, grief counseling offers a space for healing, growth, and eventually, hope. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the Ni655 family. Give us a thumbs up if you liked the content, and make sure to click the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more awesome videos.